Hi, and welcome to this session on must-do sets for CAT LRDI preparation. Whether you are just starting out or revising for the upcoming CAT examination, these are sets which you should not be missing on the way. In this session, we'll be looking at logic-based DI problems. Now, there's a lot of confusion with what gets classified as logic-based DI problems, right? Obviously, it is logical reasoning with some amount of math thrown in. So how is it different from the math-based questions that we have a session on earlier? Now, how I differentiate between a math-based problem and a logic-based DI is that in a math-based question, the key factor is the math involved. As we have seen earlier, there might be some mathematical concept like probability or counting methods or properties of numbers or averages, allegations, and so on. So that is the hero in that particular sort of sets. In this set, the hero is still your logical reasoning problem. There is some amount of math involved in this, and that's why while maths is required to solve the logic-based DI, the maths involved may not be a slightly higher level maths like counting methods or probability. It will mostly be some amount of calculation, again, concepts of percentages, ratios, etc. that will be thrown in. A lot of optimization, min-max you will find in these type of questions. And as usual with optimization and min-max problems, you will obviously have multiple cases involved in these sessions as well. Let's get on. If you are running short of time, obviously you can skip to the relevant sets. Each of the videos which you'll be releasing will have links available in the description where if you click on it, you can skip to the relevant set. So the question says, for admission to various affiliated colleges, a university conducts a written test with 4 different sections, each with a maximum of 50 marks. The following table gives the aggregate as well as the sectional cutoff marks fixed by 6 different colleges affiliated to the university. A student will get admission only if or she gets marks greater than or equal to the cutoff marks of each section, and his aggregate marks are at least equal to the aggregate cutoff marks as specified by the college. So, not a lot of data. So you have 6 colleges, you have 4 sections, maximum marks is 50 for each section, right? So the aggregate marks for the paper will be 200. We don't have to worry about negative, plus, minus, score, etc. All those, right? We don't seem to be having any discussion based on that. So these are the cutoffs which are given for each section. The data says a student will get admission only if he or she gets marks greater than or equal to the cutoff marks in each section, and his or her aggregate marks are at least equal to the aggregate cutoff marks as specified by the college. So for example, if you need to get into college 1, you have to score at least 42 in section 1, 42 in section B, 42 in section C. There is no information about the cutoff here, and you need to score an overall of 176 to get to the college. Now, there are 2 things which a lot of people make errors over here. First of all, there is this missing information. A lot of people think that the cutoff is 0 or the cutoff is missing, right? Basically, you'll have to consider the cutoff as 0 or there is no sectional cutoff over there. So irrespective of whether you score a 0 or you score a 50, that is not going to affect your admission to this particular college. Why can we be so sure that the cutoff is 0 or there is no cutoff? Because the question does not say that the cutoff is missing, right? A lot of people think that because each section should have a cutoff, right? Because of the preconceived notion, they think that there should be a cutoff and it is missing. The question very explicitly says that there is no missing information. There is nowhere is it mentioned that there is any missing information anywhere. So you cannot, just because in real life you will have sectional cutoff for each section, you cannot assume that, there is going to be a sectional cutoff for this and this is missing. That is number 1. Number 2, and this is now very common, you have to clear the cutoff for each section as well as the overall cutoff, right? So these are the 2 things which you need to be clear about when you're trying to solve this. So don't try to optimize just this or try to optimize this. You have to work with both the criteria. If you look at the questions are all maybe maximum, minimum sort of questions. First one says Aditya got a call. What could be the maximum marks? Next says Bhima says what could be the minimum marks? Charlie blah blah blah, what could be the minimum marks. So every question has additional information in it to help you solve, right? It's a moderate level difficulty question. Once you get the understanding that there is no cutoff in this particular section, and you have to make sure that you clear cutoff for each section as well as the overall one. So nothing much to do over here. Let's go to the individual questions one by one and try to solve. Right. Question number 1 says, Aditya did not get a call from even a single college. What could be the maximum aggregate marks obtained by him? Now, remember, these are all AND conditions. So, if you score a 175, right, you're not going to get a call from college 1, irrespective of whether you have cleared the individual cutoffs or not. Why? Because the aggregate cutoff is 176. Right. Similarly, if you score a 174, you will not get a call from any of these, from college 1 or college 2, right? Or from college 4 or from college 5 or from college 6. If you score 170 or lesser, you are not going to get a call from any of the colleges because you are not clearing the aggregate cutoff at all, right? But the question does not ask you that. The question asks, he did not get a call from any of the college. What could be the maximum possible score that can be obtained by him? You need to increase this score such that he should not get a call from even a single college, but that score should be as high as possible because he messed up individual sections or he messed up one of the sections. Now we have looked at only the aggregates as of now. You can also mess up individual section. For example, if you score a 41 here, you score a 15 section B, 15 section C, 15 section D. So even though you have scored 191, right, 50, 50, 50 plus 41, you got 191. You are not going to get a call from college 1. You are not going to get a call from college 2, college 4 also, because you have messed up the sectional score here. You're not going to get a call from college 5 also because you have messed up the sectional score here also, right? So you can mess up a particular section, and no matter how high you score, you're not going to get a call. So this is the route that we need to follow, right? Now, if you observe carefully, if you look at section C, section C has maximum number of cutoffs, right? It affects 4 colleges, right? So if you mess up section C, you're going to get out of 4 colleges straight away. So let's try to mess up section C. Section C, if you score a 41 here, right now I score 50, 50 and 50, right? My total score will be 191, but I'm not going to get into college 5. I'm not going to get into college 3. I'm not going to get into college 2. I don't have to get into college 1 also because I've messed up the sectional cutoff, right? So 4 out of 6 I've already messed up. Now I need to mess the remaining 2 colleges as well. How will I mess up, right? One way I can do is I can score a 42 here and then I can score a 43 here. So I'll mess up this. Now you don't even have to score a 42 here. Why? Because if you score a 43 in section D, right, you automatically mess up college 4 also. Right, you mess up college 4 also. So even if you stay at 50, you don't have, you are not going to get into college 4 or college 6 because you have messed up section D as well. So let me score 43 here. Right, if I score 43 instead of 50, I score a 43. My total score will be 84 plus 100, 184. So I'll score a 184, but I will not get a call from any of the colleges, even though I've cleared the overall cutoff. Right, I've scored an overall cutoff. I will not get in here. So it's like scoring a 99.98 percentile and scoring a 79 percentile in one of the sections, right? Usually the IIM cutoffs are 80, 80, 80 in each section, right? So you mess up one of the sections. So even though you've scored a 99.9, you'll end up then going and crying that, I have not cleared the cutoff, etc. and so on. So in this case, the question is 184. Option C will be your correct choice. Question number 2, it's the flip side of this one. The previous question asked what could be the maximum so that you don't get a call from a single college. Here, it's the opposite. You need to score minimum. Bhama got calls from all colleges. What could be the minimum aggregate obtained by her? So you need to score as little as possible and yet get a call from all the colleges. Now, minimum overall score required is 180. Right, so below 180, you don't have a choice. So this is out straight away. Right, so below 180, you're not going to get a call from all the colleges. Right? You might get a call from one college or two college or five colleges, but you will not get a call from all six because college 5 cutoff is 180. What is the other requirement? You have to clear the cutoff of each section. So you'll have to clear the cutoff in each section. Now, in the previous question, I made sure that I messed up just one section, right? And then I will basically get out of that college here. But the opposite is a little difficult. Not only have to clear it in section A, you'll also have to clear for section B as well as for section C. Similarly, each of these cutoffs have to be cleared, right? So in section A, you have to score at least 45. Why? Because if you don't score 45, you're not going to get into college 5. You might get into college 1, get into college 4, but not get into college 5. Similarly, in section B, you have to score at least 45. In section C, you have to score at least 46. And in section D, you have to score another 45. Right? So these are the minimum cutoffs that you have to clear for each section also. Otherwise, you will not get a call from those colleges. Right? What is the total? 45 into 4 is 180 plus this one extra, 181. It will not be 180, it is 181 is your correct answer. Question number 3 says, Charlie got calls from 2 colleges. What could be the minimum marks obtained by him in a section, in a particular section? So you have to minimize your score in a particular section and get calls from 2 colleges. Not from 4, not from 6, not from 1. You have to get a call from 2 colleges. Right? So again, we have to mix both the previous 2 questions. Right? So now let's look at this. If you score a 0 in a particular section, right? Even if you score 50, 50 and 50 in the other 3 sections. Now 0 will mess up, let's say section D. It will mess up section D. But you're safe in A, B, section A, B and C. Your overall aggregate is only 150. That is not enough to clear any of the other part. Right? So 0 cannot be the answer. Your options are 21, 25, 35 and 41. Right? Now what happens if you score a 21 in a particular section? Right? So your maximum score possible is 171, 50, 50, 50 and 21. Right? It's not necessarily section D, but I'm just taking section D here. Right? Right? 50, 50, 50 and 21. Right? You score 171. 171 will give you a call for college 3 only. Right? Because you have cleared the cutoff only for college 3. You have not cleared the overall cutoffs for the other colleges. So 21 is also out. The next lower is 25. What happens if I put 25 here? If I put 25 here, you're not going to clear section D's cutoffs here. Right? You're going to clear cutoffs for only college 2 and college 3 because you have cleared the overall cutoffs as well. Right? So if you take these 3 colleges, if you score 50, 50, 50 and score a 25 in the third one, you're going to get only 2 calls. Now, this 25 need not be from section D also. You can put 50 in section D and you can put 25 in section A. Even then, you will get only 2 calls. Why? You will clear the overall cutoff for only section college 2 and college 3 and you'll clear the sectional cutoff for these 2 particular colleges. Right? So you have to score a minimum of 25 in a particular college, in a particular section. Why? Because you have to reach 175 in order to get 2 calls. Right? Anything lower than 175 is not going to be able to get you 2 calls. Right? It's a very interesting question. Not difficult. It's a moderate level difficult question. In an exam situation, if you get the initial part, which was basically the 2 parts, that this is not a missing part and you have to clear all the individual cutoff and the overall cutoff, you will probably take about 7 to 8 minutes to solve this question, not more than. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notifications button so that you are notified when we are releasing our next set of videos. Please do like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us, you can connect with us through WhatsApp and Telegram as well. All the relevant links are available in the description of this particular video.
Now, this is a question which came in CAT 2017 second slot. This was one of the lengthier questions in that slot. Okay, this takes a lot of careful time and effort. So if you are actually solving a question like this, ideally this should be solved in the middle of the test where you have enough time to think and you are not rushed for time. Okay, the question is not very difficult, but it's not easy. It's pretty lengthy actually. Let's see if we can solve it in a faster manner using the techniques that we have. There are 7 elective courses, E1 to E7, running in a specific term in a college. Each of the 300 students, so there are 300 students enrolled, had chosen just one elective from these 7. So everyone chooses one elective. However, before the start of the term, E7 was withdrawn. So this E7 was withdrawn. As a instructor concerned had left the college, the students who had opted for E7 were allowed to join any of the remaining electives. Also, the students who had chosen other electives were given one chance to change their choices. So E7 goes, they can move to any of the remaining other electives, and even E1 can go to some other electives, E2 can go to other electives, and so on. The table below captures the movement of the students from one elective to the other during this process. Movement from one elective to the same elective simply means no movement. So this is your original one. Okay, so if you were to look at it, out of all the students in E1, 9 students stayed in E1, which means these people did not move at all. 5 moved from E1 to E2, 10 moved from E1 to E3, 1 moved from E1 to E4, 4 moved from E1 to E5, and 2 moved from E1 to E6. So if you add along the rows, you will find the original number of people. Okay, now if you look at the 2 part, okay, these many people moved from E1 to E2, these many people moved from E2 to E2, which means they remained here, E3 to E3, E3 to E2, E4 to E2, E5 to E2, E6 to E2, E7 to E2. So if we add along the columns, okay, you will find the new number of people. Okay, obviously there is no people lost in transition, so the total along the rows will be same as total along the columns, which should be around 300 people. Okay, so 300 people. Okay, there are some which are blank. Let's see what the blanks say. Some numbers in the table got accidentally erased. However, it is known that these were either 0 or 1. So wherever it is blank, it can be either 0 or 1, cannot be anything else. Okay. Further, there is more information. Before the change of process, there are 6 more in E1 than E4. But after the reshuffle, the number of students in E4 was 3 more than E1. The number of students in E2 increased by 30 after the change process. Before the change of process, E4 had 2 more than E6, while E2 had 10 more than E3. Okay, so let's see how we can solve this. I have taken out the relevant information. All empty cells are 0 or 1. Total is 300. Okay, I'll just write total is 300. Okay, further you have before change, after change, and I've taken a summary of all of them. Now, as we discussed here, if you take the totals along the row, it should be the number of people originally there, and if you take the people, take it along the columns, it should be the number of people after the movement. Okay, so now E1 we know already before the movement how many people are there. So you have 14, 24, 25, 25 plus 6, 31 people were there before the movement. Okay, others are not known. Totally E7 we know how many are there. So you have 20, 50, 55, 60, 101. There are 101 people in E7 and they will all move to some other elective. Okay, now let's see what we have. Before change, E1 was 4 more than E6. So E1 was 4 more than E6. 6 more than E4. 6 more than E4. E1 is 31. So E4 should be 25 before. 25 before. Okay, now let's see what do we have in E4 here. You have 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 4, 9. 9 plus 14 is 23. 23 have been already accounted for. Now these two are missing. Now the only way this can reach 25 is if both of them are 1, because every cell can be at most 0 or 1. At most 1. It can be 0 or it can be 1. It cannot be 2. So this cannot be 2 and this cannot be 0. Now this total is 23. 18 plus 5, 23. To reach 25, both these cells have to be 1 each. Okay. So we also know how many students were there in E1 beforehand. Okay. E2 increased by 30. Now if you observe E2, this is the number of people after the movement. I can take this column. I know the number of people after the movement, and I know this increased by 30. So this number will be 30 less than this total. So let's total this. This is 39 plus 6, 45, 48, 53, 60, 76. This total is 76. So after the movement it is 76. Before the movement it should be 46. Okay. Now there are some options which are there. Let's see if we can eliminate some of the options. Okay, it says after the change of the process, which of the following is the correct sequence of number? Okay, this is 76. All of them are 76. Okay, so that does not help. Okay, we'll come back to this. We can probably use this later on, this, because this gives you this total fully. So we'll try to use this later on. Okay, what else do we have? After change, E4 became E1 plus 3. E4 became E1 plus 3. Okay, we don't know how many are there right now. Okay, we'll come back to this. Before the change, E4 was 2 more than E6. E4 was 2 more than E6. So this number would be 23, 2 more than E6. Now let's see what is the total here. 9 plus 2 is 11. 11 plus 10. 11 plus 10 is 21. To reach 23, both of them have to be 1. Both of them have to be 1 each. So this will have to be 1. This will have to be 1. Okay, this is very nice. Okay. All right, this is used. Okay. Before the change, E2 was 10 more than E3. E2 was 10 more than E3. So this number should have been 36. Let's see what is the total here. This is 8, 33. 33 plus 2 is 35. So I need one more. One can be from one of these two places. This can be 0 or 1. This can be 0 or 1. Okay, but I don't know where the 1 is coming from. So right now there is no point writing this. Okay. All right. Now we know this total has to be 300, right? So we can find the rest of the number here. Okay, we can find the rest of the number here. Okay, let's add this and see if we can add something for E2. This is 42 plus 4, 46. This is 46. So this has to be 0. This has to be 0. Okay, this is nice. Okay, these two have to be 0. There is no other number to fit here. Okay, so this total is 300. So let's add this. 101, this is 124, 149, 149, 155, 195, 225, 226, 256, 262. So this total has to be 38. This total has to be 38 to make it 300. Okay, 30 plus 5 is 35. 30 plus 5 is 35. So I need 3 from here. So 3 of them will be 1. 1 of them will be 0. All right. Okay. Let's add the columns and see if we can get something out of this. E3 is 33, 35, 60, 70, 78. This is 78 plus the 78 or 79. Okay, so 78 or 79, which is what this is here. Okay. Let's see what is E4. E4 is 5, 6, 20, 21 plus 21 or higher. 21 or higher. So it can be 22, it can be 23, 21. Okay, this does not help. Okay, now we know E4 is 3 more than E1 after the change. Okay, let's see what is E1 after the change. 11, 12, 13, 13 plus 4, 17 or higher. Now this is already 21. This is already 21. Okay, and it can only go higher. Now there is only one cell which can be changed here, which is this one. It has to reach at least 18 in order to, be 21 plus, in order to satisfy this criteria. Okay, so which means this number cannot exceed 21. So these two should be 0 and this should be 1. So this should be 17 plus 1, which should be 18. Okay, and this should be exactly 21. Okay, so I know these three numbers for sure. Let's eliminate the options. I can use the options to get the rest of the answers. So you have 18 should be the first one. So this is out, this is out. 76, this is fine. 78 plus, both of them are 79. So this number should be 79. Okay, this number should be 21. So this cannot be an answer. This should be the answer. Okay, so this should be 79. This should be 45 and this should be 61. Okay, so let's fill in the numbers because now we can fill up everything because we have the options now. This is 18 plus, okay, 33, 35, 60, 78. So this should be 1. Okay, this is 1, 37, 37. So this should also be 1. Let's check if this is 61. 50, 51, 51 plus 10, 61. Okay, this is fine. This should be 45. So let's verify this. 6, 7, 7 plus 30, 37, 37 plus 5, 37 plus 7 is 44. This should be 1. Verify this. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 6, 11 plus 25, 36. Okay, this is fine and this also matches the option. So we can use the options and get the answer here. So this should be there. Now we can answer all the questions. How many elective courses from E1 to E6 had a decrease in enrollments? How many had decrease? Okay, from 31 it has become 18. So that is 1 decrease. 46 to 36 it's an increase. 36 to 79 it's an increase. 25 to, this is exactly 21. So that is 2 decreases. 38 to 45 it's an increase. 23 to 61 is also an increase. So 2 courses saw a decrease in enrollments. Option 3. We've already solved question 2. Let's look at question 3. After change in process, which course among E1 to E6 had the largest change in enrollment as a percentage of its original enrollment? So change as a percentage of original. E1, the change is a drop of 13 on 31. Okay, that's more than 50%. Okay, for E2, the change is 30 on 46. That's also more than 50%. We'll come to this. For E3, from 36 it has become 79. From 36 it has become 79. So that's a rise of 43 on 36. That's more than 100%. So these two are out. So it can be E3 or E6. E6, it has gone from 23 to 61. 23 to 61. That's a rise of 38 on 23. 38 on 23 or 36 on 43. 36, 150% will be 54. 150% will be 23 plus 12, 35. Okay, this is more than 150% rise. This is less than 150% rise. So option 4 will be a correct choice. Okay. And the last one. Later, the college imposed a condition if after the change of electives, the enrollment in any elective other than E7 dropped to less than 20. So any enrollment is dropped to less than 20, which means only E1 will be affected with this. All the students who had left that course will be required to re-enroll for that elective. Which of the following will be the correct sequence in decreasing order of their final enrollments? All the people who left will have to go back to the original course. Okay. So from 18, who are the people who left? 5 people went to E2. 10 people went to E3, 1 went to E4, 4 went to E5, 2 went to E6. Okay, so let's see which one you need to find decreasing order in the final. So highest to lowest. So let's see what helps. Highest will be one of these two. Either it will be E3 or E2. All of them have E3 or E2 because these have the maximum. Okay, so this will drop by 5. So this will become 71. This will drop by 10. So this will become 69. So highest will be this one. Highest will be this one. Okay. So E2 will be the highest. So this is out. These three are there. Next one can be either, next one will be E3. After E2 will be E3 because 69, this can only drop. This cannot rise anymore. So E2, E3. So this is also out. E2, E3, then either E5 or E6. Okay. E5 will drop from 45 to 41. E6 will go from 61 to 59. So it will be E2, E3 and then E6. E2, E3 and E6. Option 1 will be your correct choice, right? So just by using the options and we actually solve the question instead of solving the full one.
A lot of students miss out on good B schools because they simply don't apply and they are ignorant. They don't do any research beyond the IIMs and they are more worried about their profile and academics, etc., rather than actually getting into a good B schools and making a career in the management field. If you would like personalized B school assistance, all you need to do is fill up the Google document. Link is available in the description of this video and we'll send you individual B school recommendations which fit your profile and your career aspirations. Okay, let's look broadly at what the question says. It says mathematicians are assigned a number called Herodos number, named after famous mathematician Paul Herodos. Only Paul himself had an Herodos number of 0. Any mathematician who had written a research paper with Herodos had an Herodos number of 1. For other mathematicians, the calculation of his or her Herodos number is given below. So there is a rule for calculating the Herodos number. And then you have some more information in a 7-day mini conference in the memory of Paul Herodos. A close group of mathematicians A, B, C, D to H discuss some research problem. At the beginning of conference, A was the only one who had an infinite Herodos number. Okay, so you can have an infinite Herodos number. Nobody had an Herodos number less than that of F. Okay, and then you have some conditions based on this. And if you look at the problems which are there, it says how many participants did not change their Herodos number. The person having the largest Herodos number at the end of the conference must have been, and how many participants had the same Herodos number of C, Herodos number of E. So we need to figure out what this Herodos number is, and we have to do it for almost all of them, A to H. There are 8 participants. We have to figure out their Herodos number and how it changes through the conference. Okay, so let's go through this part. So only Paul Herodos has an Herodos number of 0. So Herodos has a number 0. So everyone is looking at this Herodos number. Now it says any mathematician who's written a research paper with Herodos has an Herodos number 1. So if I basically have co-authored or co-written a paper with Herodos, my number will be 1. My number will not be 0. Only he can have the number 0. Right? For other mathematician, the calculation of his or her Herodos number is illustrated below. Okay. Suppose that a mathematician X, okay, has co-authored papers with several other mathematicians. From among them, mathematician Y has the smallest Herodos number. Then the Herodos number of Y, and let the Herodos number of Y be small y. Then X has an Herodos number of Y plus 1. Hence, any mathematician with no co-authorship chain connected to Herodos has an Herodos number infinity. Okay, let's see what this means. So if I am actually writing a research paper with some other people, right?
So you have people with error dose number 7, 3, 9, and 12. Suppose the 5 of us write an error paper, right? It says, then among them, whoever is the smallest, I'll pick first. So 3 is the smallest that I have, right? My error dose number will not be 3. My error dose number will be 3 plus 1, which will become 4. This will be my error dose number once I have co-authored this paper. Now, it also says that if a mathematician has no co-authorship chain linked to error dose, then he has an error dose number infinity. So if I have written like 4 or 5, papers, but none of them is with any mathematician who has any linkage with error dose, right? So we have all independent. I've written with other people who are independent of error dose. Then I will have a error dose number of infinity. Okay, so this is how you calculate the error dose numbers. Now let's check what is the information says. There is a 7-day long mini conference organized in the memory of Paul Erdos, a close group of 8 mathematicians. Let's call them A to H. So you have A to H, right? They have conferences, right? It's a 7-day conference. Let's just check what we need to do before we get on to, arranging the data as such. Right? At the beginning of the conference, A was the only one who had an infinite error dose number, okay? Nobody had an error dose number less than F. So F had the lowest error dose number, right? It cannot be 0, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, but nobody had less than F. Okay, so one says on the third day of the conference, you're speaking about the third day, F co-authored a paper, reduced the average. So something happened on the third day, right? At the end of the third day, this is what has happened. Then something happened on the 5th day, right? And nothing else happened in the conference, right? So you have the beginning of the conference, you have the third day, you have the 5th day, and nothing else. I mean, nothing else with respect to the error dose number. They would have done something, but as far as we are concerned, we are looking at these 3. And because they are writing with each other, the error dose number is changing, right? The error dose number goes below, the error dose number goes below, and so on. So we need to track the error dose number throughout these 3 instances across 8 people. Okay, so let's create a table. I've done this part. So you have something at the beginning, you have something at the end of day 3, and something at the end of day 5, because after day 5 nothing else happened as per the process. Okay, so let's fill in the data which is given to us. Right. At the beginning of the conference, A was the only participant who had an infinite error dose number. So he had an infinite error dose number. Okay. Nobody else had an error dose number less than that of F. So F is the lowest. Okay. On the third day of the conference, we don't know what is happening here. On the third day of the conference, F co-authored a paper with A and C. So on the third day, F wrote with A and C. F wrote with A and C. This reduced the average error dose number of the group of 8 mathematicians to 3. So the overall average ended up becoming 3. Overall average ended up becoming 3, which means the sum total of the error dose number will be 3 into 8, 24. The total will be 24. 8 people, average is 3, so total should be 24. Okay, that is one hint which we can probably look at. Now we know F has the lowest at the beginning, right? F, nobody has lesser than that. So once they co-author with F, F's number will not change, right? If F started with an F, right? F's number will not change, but everyone else's number will become 4 or F plus 1. In our case, it was 4. I had co-authored with 3, 7, 9, and 12. So it became 3 plus 1, 4. So in case of C and A, the error dose number will become F plus 1 and F plus 1. It further goes on to say that no other co-authorship among any 3 writing members would have reduced the average to as low as 3. What it means is that this is the best possible drop. There cannot be any other possible drop, which means this is the lowest possible number that you would have gotten. Which also means that A has a huge number to begin with, A has infinity. C also would have had higher than all the others. Because if you exchange C with somebody else, then the drop would be lesser. The average would have fallen to a smaller number, to a larger number. Average would have been a slightly higher number, right? But because C was chosen and C are the highest of the other remaining people after A, the drop in the Errodos number total was the highest, right? So that's what it says. So C had the second highest after A. We can probably look at this later on. So F has the lowest, C had the second highest. Okay. It also says the Errodos number of B, D, E, G, H remain unchanged with the writing of this paper, right? So these people remained the same. Okay. So all that happened on day 3 was this. All that happened on day 3 was this. Okay. So I've used up the first one, right? C is the second highest. A is the highest Errodos number. He has infinity, right? Okay. Second statement says, at the end of the third day, 5 members of this group had identical Errodos number, while the other 3 had Errodos number distinct from each other. So you had 5 people who had identical numbers, then the other 3 had different numbers. Other 3 had different numbers. 5 had identical numbers and the other 3 had different numbers. Now what can be the identical numbers? A and C have the same number, right? So they cannot belong to this group which are 3 different people. So they have to belong to this 5, right? They have to belong to this 5, right? So all of them will have F plus 1. So you'll have 5 people on day 3. You'll have end of day 3, you'll have 5 people with F plus 1 as their Errodos number. Let me just make some space. This is on day 3. What are the other people? F is another person. He has a different number. We don't know the other 2 people. Okay, we'll proceed. Okay, there are 2 more people who have different numbers on day 3. Okay, on day 5, E co-authored a paper with F. E co-authored a paper with F, right? Which reduced the group's average by 0.5. So it dropped to 2.5, which means the total will become 2.5 into 8, 20. The Errodos number of all the others remain unchanged. Everyone else remain the same. So A will become stay at F plus 1. C will stay at F plus 1. Now, F does not change because F has the lowest number. So E will now become F plus 1, just as we calculated earlier, right? Which means E's Errodos number would not be F plus 1. E will not be in these 5 people who had F plus 1 as their Errodos number. Why? Because there is nothing else which is happening on day 5. Everyone else remains the same. But the average has fallen. The only reason that average has fallen is because E's Errodos number has fallen. E's Errodos number has fallen, right? Which means F plus 1 cannot be his Errodos number at the end of day 3. Which means E cannot be in this group of 5 people. E has to be separate from this group of 5 people. Okay, so I would track E separately. So let me write it down. So E had E to begin with and E at the end of day 3 as well. Everyone else was there. Now what will happen? We know at the end of day 3, there are 5 people with F plus 1, one F who had an F, E who had a different number, and there is another person, let's call it X for the sake of convenience. Okay, so these are the 8 Errodos numbers over here. What is happening? On day 5, F will remain at F. All these 5 people will have the same number, F plus 1. E also now ends up with F plus 1. So there will be 6 people with F plus 1. And there will be 1 person with X. There'll be one person with X. So if I add up all these Erodos numbers, this will become 20. If I add up all these Erodos numbers, it will be 24. This is my starting point. This is the place to solve and figure out where F, X and E might be. So I have written this down neatly. Let's subtract one from the other. If I subtract the second equation from first, you will get X will go, F will go. So you'll get minus F plus 1 plus E equals 4. 24 minus 20 is 4. If I rewrite this, E should be equal to F plus 5. E should be equal to F plus 5. But that does not help me solve the solution because you have 2 equations and 3 unknowns. What else do we know? Can we try to solve the second one? If I try to solve the second one, you will get 6 plus 1, 7. 7F plus X. 7F plus X will be equal to this minus 6, 14. Right? 7F plus X should be equal to 14. Now, F has to be an integer. F has to be an integer. It cannot be, they are all integer numbers. F cannot be 0. Only Paul Erodos can have 0. Right? If I put F is equal to 1, X will become 7. Possible. If I put F is equal to 2, X will become 0, which is not possible because only Paul Erodos can have 0 as a number, and we don't have Paul Erodos' spirit over here, right? I know it's in his memory, but his spirit is not present here. So that will be a completely different scenario. So basically, F has to be equal to 1. F is equal to 1. So which means E should be equal to 1 plus 5, 6. X is equal to 7, which means the unknown guy is 7. Okay, so let me fill this up. This will be 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 6, 6, 1, 1. Okay, this is what I know as of now. And we know C was the second highest, right? So there is a third person, X. This is not C because C's number has changed already. Whereas the person who had X on the beginning had X at the end of the third day, had X at the end of 5th day and the end also. So C and X are not the same. So C should have a Erodos number higher than 7. C's Erodos number should be higher than 7. Now, before I actually go to the problems, let's also figure out what are the numbers we have. We already know A's numbers, we know C's number partially, we know E's numbers on all days, F's number on all days, right? But what else do we have? We knew that on end of day 3, there are 5 people whose numbers were identical, and all those numbers were 2. We have 2 2s already, so I need 3 more 2s. So you have 3 members with a score of 2 each. So 3 plus 2, 5 members with a score of 2. Then you have a 1, you have a 6. What is the last score? Last score is X, which is a 7. So 3 members with 2 and 1 X, which is 7. And this guy will last here also. Now, except for E, nobody's number changes. Except for E, nobody's number, E should actually become 2 now. Right? Except for E, nobody's Erodos number changes. Right? So, all these 3 plus 2, 5 people will already have 2. So, you'll still have 3 into 2 plus this 2 more 2s. E also gets 2. Right? You have an F, which is 1, and X, which is at 7. So, I have accounted for all the 8 people. Right? I know one of them is X. I don't know who is X. One out of B, D, G, H is X. I don't know who is it. But for the other 3 people, I know it is 2, 2 throughout. And even in the beginning also, those people have 2s only. And I know for F, I know for E, there is an X, right? 3 people with 2. I already know C and A's rough range. A had infinite and C had more than 7. So this is what we have. We don't know the original original average, because original average will be infinite, right? Because A is infinite number. So we know this part. Let's go to the questions now and try to solve them. Okay, I have written this down neatly. X is that person. It has to be one out of H, G, D, and B. One of these four is H. The other three have 2's throughout. Okay, let's go to the question. First one, how many participants in the conference did not change their Eros number through the conference? Now let's see whose numbers have changed. X's number remains 7 throughout. These three people remains 2 throughout. F's remains 1 throughout. E's Eros number changes. C's Eros number changes. A's Eros number changes. So only A, C, and E. Three people change their Eros numbers, which means 8 minus 3. 5 people did not change. Option 4 will be your correct choice. Question number 2. The person having the largest Eros number at the end of the conference. Largest Eros number is with Mr. X, 7. Must have had an Eros number of how much? 7. Option 2. Question number 3. How many participants had the same Eros number at the beginning of the conference? Okay, at the beginning of the conference. F has 1, E has 6, Mr. X has 7. There are 3 people with 2. We know C has more than 7 and A has infinite. A has infinite. So only 3 people, these 3 people have 2 each. Option 2. Question number 4. The Eros number of C at the end of the conference. C at the conference was 2. Option 2 again. And the last one. The Eros number of E at the beginning of the conference was. E at the beginning of the conference was 6. Option 3. It's a beautiful set on maths and application of averages, etc. The key point was trying to figure out, how to calculate the Eros number. Once you figured out the Eros number, at least half the set was solvable. Then you had another catch here. You had to figure out who this Mr. X was. That was another twist in that. These two twists actually make this question a difficult question in an exam situation. In an exam situation, about 12 minutes is what you should take to solve this. If you get stuck anywhere with respect to preparing for LRDI, there are some free resources which are available on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist on how to prepare for LRDI. It includes which are the topics which you need to focus on, how much do you need to spend on each area. Also, we tell you how to go about picking sets in the examination. Right? So if you are not able to pick even a single set, this is a good framework to start with and build on for your CAT LRDI preparation. If you want any further assistance in terms of speaking with us, getting personal guidance, doing more practice, following a more structured path to LRDI preparation, please do look at our Ultimate LRDI course. Hi, this is a moderate to easy level question on quant based reasoning. This came in CAT 2018, slot 1. It's not difficult at all. With some amount of patience, probably 3 to 4 minutes, you can solve this pretty easily. Let's see what this says. You have 24 people are part of 3 committees which are to look into research, teaching and administration. So you have research, teaching, admin. No 2 committees have any member in common. No 2 committees are of the same size. Each committee has 3 types of people. You have bureaucrats, educationists and politicians, and the total overall is 24. And then you have some information which is given about the distribution. Let's go to the part in detail. I have put this out. This is total. So you have bureaucrats, educationists. What we know is no 2 committees are the same size. Right. Okay. Now the number of bureaucrats in research and teaching committees are equal. Research and teaching committees are equal. So if this is X, this will also be X. Right? While the number of bureaucrats in research committee is 75% of the number of bureaucrats in administration. So this is 75% of this. So this will be 4/3 of X. Right? Which means the total should be 10/3X. Okay? So this part is done.
Okay. Next one says the number of educationists in research committee is less than number of educationists in teaching is less than research. This is less than this. And the number of educationists in research committee is the average of the educationists in the other two committees. Okay, so research is the average of these two, which means if you take the total, this will be the mean also, which means if this part is A, this part should be 3A. Right. So if this is A minus P, this will be A plus P. Right. This will be an arithmetic progression in this order: teaching, research, admin. Right. So this part is taken care of. And the last one, 60% of the politicians are in administration committee, 20% are in teaching committee. So split is 60%, 20%. So balance 20% will be here. So 6, 2, 2. So 3, 1, 1. So this is B, this will be B, this will be 3B, total will be 5B. Right. So this is what we have done. Okay. So I've summarized this. Okay. Now let's look at what is given to us. The total is 24. Now let's try to figure out what these numbers can be. Now it is given that there is at least one member of each type in each of these committees. So all these values have to be more than 1. Right. Okay. So you cannot have a 0 anywhere. Okay. This cannot be 0, or this cannot be 0, or this cannot be 0. Right. So now this has to be a natural number. Number of people is a natural number. So x has to be a multiple of 3. If I put x is equal to 3, total will be 10. If I put x is equal to 6, total will be 20. I cannot put x is equal to 9 because then the total will become 30. That will not be possible. Now if I put 6 here, total is 20. This will have at least 5 members. 20 plus 5 is 25, that is already out. So this is gone. So the only way out is if x is equal to 3. This will be 4, so this should be 10. This part is taken care of. Okay. Now let's look at this. 10 plus this should be a multiple of 5. If I put 10 plus 5, that should be 15. So balance will be 9. 9 is a multiple of 3. That's possible. If I put 10 plus 10, that's 20. Balance will be 4. 4 is not a multiple of 3. That's out. If I put 10 plus 15, that is 25, which is more than the total. This is also out, which means this total should be 5. So this should be 3. This should be 1. This should be 1. Okay. 10 plus 5 is 15, which means this total should be 9. So 3A is 9, so A should be 3. So this total should be 7. Now this has to be less than 3, so it can be either 2 or 1. 3 plus 2 is 5, so balance can be 4 or 5. 3 plus 2 is 6, 5. 5 plus 1 is 6 or 5. This number can be 8 plus 3, 11 or 12. So I've got this data. Summarize this. Right. Okay. Nothing much we can do about it. Let's go to the questions. Which of the following must be false? You need to be definitely false. In the teaching committee, the number of educationists is equal to the number of politicians. Teaching committee, educationist is same as the number of politicians. It is possible that it is true. It may be true, may be false. So we cannot be. It is not definitely false. So this is not the answer. Size of the research committee is less than the size of the teaching committee. Now this is definitely false. Research is always more than teaching. So second is a false statement. Okay. Next one. What is the number of bureaucrats in administration? Bureaucrats in administration is 4. What is the number of educationists in research committee? Educationists in research is 3. Okay. Which of the following cannot be uniquely determined? So some of these numbers, right? Size of the teaching committee. This cannot be uniquely determined. Option 1 is your correct choice. Size of the research committee is known. Total number of educationists is known. Total number of bureaucrats is known. So first is cannot be determined. Right. Pretty straightforward question. Should definitely have answered this in the examination. That completes this particular set.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notifications button so that you are notified when we are releasing our next set of videos. Please do like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us, you can connect with us through WhatsApp and Telegram as well. All the relevant links are available in the description of this particular video. There's a wonderful set which is on optimization, maxima, minima sort of a question. Reasonably moderate amount of data. And the question is, how many people is it possible, who among the following can have, how many people have definitely scored less, who has the best. So looks like a partial sort of a set when you look at the questions as such. Let's see what the set actually says. Coach John sat with the scorecards of Indian players from 3 games in the one-day cricket tournament where the same set of players played for India and all the major batsmen got out. Okay. All right, we'll look at this later. John summarized the batting performance through the 3 diagrams, one for each game. In each diagram, the 3 outer triangles communicate the runs scored by the top 3 scorers from India from K, R, S, V, Y. Kaif, Rahul, Saurav, Virender and Yuvraj. Obviously, Sachin is not there. Yeah. You cannot grade Sachin, right? Okay. So what it says is that Yuvraj has scored 40 runs against Pakistan. Virendra has scored 130 runs against Pakistan, and Kaif has scored 28 runs against Pakistan. The middle triangle in each diagram denotes the percentage of the total score that was scored by the top 3 Indian scorers in that game. So these are the top 3, and this is 90% of India's score in that game. So for instance, here Pakistan, so 170 plus 28, 198 represents 90% of the score against Pakistan. So which means against Pakistan, India scored 220, right? India scored 220, right? So the balance 220 minus 198, 22 runs were scored by the other batsmen, all the batsmen combined. Similarly, you have it for others as well, South Africa and Australia also. Right? No 2 players scored the same number of runs in the same game. John also calculated 2 batting indices for each player. R index, which is the difference between highest and lowest, and M index, which is the middle number, if the scores are arranged in non-increasing, in a non-increasing order. So increasing or decreasing order, whichever way you want to look at it. Right? So middle number or median will be M is the median, R is the range. All right, so let's tabulate this data, get some space. Okay, I've written this down, whatever is available over here. Okay, so what we know is that this represents 90% of the total score. So 170, 198, so we have already calculated 220. So balance is 22 marks, 22. So Rahul scores from 0 to 22. Saurav scores from 0 to 22. Right? Those are the values which are there. Okay, let's look at South Africa. South Africa, this is 100, 175. 175 represents 70% of the total. So 25 into 7 is 175. So 25 into 10, 250 will be the total score. Balance is 75. So people can score up to 75. But remember, these are the top 3 scorers. So whoever is left cannot score more than 14, cannot score 49 because no 2 people score the same. So this has to be less than or equal to 48 or 0 to 48. This will also be 0 to 48. Right? Okay. And the last one is Australia. So this is 105, 192. 192 represents 80%. That's 24 into 8. 24 into 8 is 192. So the 24 into 10, 240. Balance is 48. So up to 48, and 48 is lesser than the lowest of the 3. So 0 to 48, 0 to 48. Now we can also see if we can find the R index and the M index because you might be needing it for that. R index is the difference between the highest and lowest of the 3 games. Now for none of them we know the exact lowest score, so we may not be able to find the exact R index as such. Can you find the M index, the middle score? Okay, the middle score for Kaif. Now if Kaif scores less than 28, then 28 will be the middle score. If he scores more than 28 against Australia, then
whatever is his score against Australia, that will be his middle score. This will be the highest. Lowest can be either here or here, and the middle one also can be here or here. So we don't know the middle index straight away. For Rahul, highest is 55, lowest is against Pakistan, so M index will be 49. Saurav, highest is 75, lowest is again 0 to 22, and middle index will be 50. Okay, Virendra, any of these two can be the middle number. Yuvraj also, any of these two can be the middle number depending on the actual score. We don't know the M index directly. Okay, so R index we'll have to calculate on a case by case basis. M index we have calculated for two particular people, Rahul and Saurav. Others we'll have to look at based on the actual scores. Let's go to the individual questions and try to solve them one by one. Question number 1, for how many Indian players is it possible to calculate the exact M index? We have calculated for 2 people. Option 3 will be our correct choice. Question number 2, among the players mentioned, who can have the lowest R index? Who can have the lowest R index? So among the players mentioned, so Kaif, Rahul, Yuvraj. Let's see who among them it's possible to have. Okay, Kaif, what will be the highest R index? R index is the difference between the highest score minus the lowest score. Highest score is 51. The lowest can be 0, or it can 0 to 48 when it is up to 28. And once this goes beyond 28, then 28 will be the lowest score, right? So the maximum possible R index will be 51 minus 0. That's 51. And the lowest will be when it is equal to 58. Equal to 28, right? So 23. 51 minus 28, which is 23. So 23 to 51, let me rewrite it, can be his, so his R index will be greater than or equal to 23. Okay, let's look at Rahul. Rahul, again, the highest will be 55, 55 minus 0, 55. Lowest will be 55 minus 22, that's 33. So his score is greater than or equal to 33. R index can be greater than or equal to 33. Yuvraj, let's look at Yuvraj. Highest will be 87, lowest will be when this to 40, greater than or equal to 47. Now let's see what can be the range of this number. 23 to, when this is, say if this is 48, then 23 to 50, if this is 0, 51. So this is 23 to 51. Rahul's score will be from 33 to 55. It's an overlapping part. So both, one of them can have the lowest number. So only Kaif is out. So let's look at Yuvraj. If Yuvraj is also overlapping, then we can say that all three of them, otherwise it will be Kaif and Rahul only. Okay, Yuvraj lowest is 47, highest will be 87. Right, this also overlaps with these two. So it is possible that Yuvraj can have the lowest R index. It is possible that Kaif can have the lowest R index. It is possible that Rahul can have the lowest R index. When will Yuvraj have the lowest R index? Suppose Yuvraj scores 48 here, right? And Kaif scores 0 here, Rahul scores 0 here. So Rahul's index will be, Kaif's index will be 51, Rahul's index will be 55, Yuvraj will have only 47. Right? So Yuvraj also can have the lowest among these three. So option 1 will be our correct choice. Question number 3. How many players among those listed definitely scored less than Yuvraj? You want to be 100% sure that their score is less than Yuvraj. Now, what is Yuvraj's range? Yuvraj's minimum possible score is 87 plus 40, 127. 127 plus. Yuvraj will score 127 plus. So even if Yuvraj scores 127, people are still scoring lesser than him, then you are 100% sure that his total will be lesser than Yuvraj. Now let's look at Kaif. Kaif's range would be, minimum will be, when this is 0, 51 plus 28 is 79. 79 to 79 plus 48, 127. Alright, 79 to 127. That's Kev's range. Let's look at Rahul. Rahul is 49 plus 55 is 104 to 126. Now, maximum possible score for Rahul aggregate is 126. Even if Yuvraj scores a 0 here, Rahul will definitely score overall lesser than Yuvraj. So Rahul is one person, which is definitely lesser than Yuvraj. Kef will not be, because Kef can score 127, which can be equal, not lesser, not definitely less. Right? Kef is a question mark, but Rahul is definite, yes. Let's look at Saurav. That's 125 to 147. That's an overlapping range, so not 100% sure. Virendra, 130 to, again, an overlapping range. So again, maybe. But with Rahul, irrespective of whatever Rahul scores and irrespective of whatever Yuvraj scores, we know Rahul's score total will be definitely lesser than Yuvraj's score. Option 2, only one person we can be 100% sure about. And the last one, which players had the best M index? Now we know between Rahul and Saurav, Saurav has the best M index. So Rahul is out. Let's look at Virendra and Yuvraj. What is the M index? The middle score. The middle score for Yuvraj can be 40 if the score is less than 40. If score against South Africa is less than 40. If score against South Africa is more than 40, right? Then this the score against South Africa will be the middle number. So 40 to 48, but it is still lesser than Saurav. So Yuvraj is out. Same will be the problem with Virendra, right? One of them is going to be the middle score. So 0 to 48 is going to be the middle score, or 1 to 48, because you cannot probably score 0 in both the cases, right? So Virendra also will definitely be lesser than Saurav. So option 2 will be our correct choice, right? It's a wonderful question. First, you have to understand how the data is being actually represented. Look at the fact that the questions may not be completely solvable. Work out the data one by one. Fill out whatever information is given. Look at the ranges and then answer the questions one at a time. In an actual exam situation, this will probably take you 12 to 14 minutes. This was actually rated tougher than the other questions in the particular examination. And it was also explicitly rated as tougher because 2004 had differential marking scheme, and this was worth 2 marks per question, whereas the others were marked 1 mark per question.
That completes this session on must-do sets for CAT LRDI preparation. Please do let us know in the comments below how you like this. Please do share this with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or you can connect with us on WhatsApp and Telegram groups. The links are all available in the description of this particular video. If you're facing any problem with CAT LRDI sets, you can look at our YouTube channel playlist on how to prepare for CAT LRDI. If you want any specialized, personalized attention on LRDI preparation in the most structured manner, you can also look at our Ultimate LRDI course. This is the most comprehensive course which is available in the market. Till we meet again the next time, goodbye and all the best.